Yeah, check. I hope I'm live. I think I just done a whole 15-20 minutes talking about something and the microphone wasn't even on. That's like, I listened back to it and I'm like, where's the sound? So now I'm going to have to do it again, I think. So, oh my God, things happen. So basically, again, what I wanted to talk about was, as I said, the book of Proverbs and the Lady Wisdom. So let me share my screen. I hope this time I get it right. Yeah, I can see the chat. Magnetus. Oh, okay, yeah, I just done a whole ranting and realized the mic was not. I didn't even set the mic on. Now you can hear me, so that's good. So let me just present this again. Go over it again. See if I can do it. Hold up. I think that's supposed to be sharing now. Okay. So let me know if you can see that clearly on screen. I could make it bigger, I think. Okay. Okay, what I wanted to talk about basically, I'm going to do a further lecture on it, is why is wisdom referred to as she in Proverbs? I watch silence for a couple of minutes then left. Okay. Yeah, I don't know what happened there. I didn't check the mic and so forth, so forgive me for that. So basically, okay. So basically I wanted to talk about Proverbs. If you read the books of Proverbs, you'll see a woman in there who they said actually created the earth. And what you find is these are some of the things they will say in Proverbs 9:2. Wisdom is not literally a woman who prepares a banquet. Wisdom is an intangible quality, but Solomon describes it as if it were an actual person. Personification again. But why is wisdom a she and not a he? As he answered that, let's consider genre. Proverbs is poetry, one of the many genres found in the Bible. It's important to consider, for if we do not know what we are reading, we will not know how we should read it. A reader will always make some sense of the words and blah, 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 blah. And they go away explaining, that wisdom, or this person, this woman in the book, who they refer to as wisdom, is actually an attribute of God. And however, Solomon referred to her as not like an actual person. In Greek, the word is Sophia, like in philosophy, lover of wisdom, or Sophia. Sophia is a word that means wisdom. You see? So what I'm saying is basically, when you start reading the text and they start, let me see if I can actually find the girl who wrote the book about it. Powerful Verbs and Woman. You'll find articles on it. I mean, I just had the articles a minute ago. Now I've lost them. You'll find articles on it, basically trying to find out who this woman is in Proverbs. And a lot of people like to say, well, she's right there at the creation of the universe. Let me see if I've got my slides. If I can find it in my slides. This was actually the book. Let me see if I can go full screen. Okay, I don't want to do that because I can't see what's going on. Okay, so you might can see this if I get it up a bit bigger. What's going on? So yeah, so basically she was talking about wisdom. Wisdom is an important concept in the Old Testament Hebrew scriptures. Wisdom is also described as more than a good quality. She is a personified heavenly female power. Despite many scholars scholarly books having been written about her, she is given a little attention by Christians because she does not have a place in official church doctrine. Consequently, she is not past of any Sunday sermons, Bible studies, or so forth. At best, the relevant passages are brushed off as metaphorical speech. Therefore, most ordinary believers, even if they do, most are not equipped to interpret passages that depict woman as a celestial deity when the church has not addressed the issue. Wisdom is more than a godly attribute. So Miriam, she's wrote this book basically looking at this woman in Proverbs and saying, why is she saying these things? If you read Proverbs, she was there at the creation of the earth. She was beside God. God created her before the earth and so forth. But in the books, they just say, oh, it's metaphorical speech. But what I don't like with people who, you know, Bible people or even religious people is that when you get to one chapter, these things are metaphorical. When they can't explain something, it's an allegory. When they see something like this, they will just, oh, it's metaphorical, but they never give you no evidence for it. But when they want to read you other parts of the Bible, it's historical. This is what they do. So you're left bamboozled half of the time. Is this historical? Is this not historical? You don't really know. So she's written a book about it, and there's many other articles on this woman that they call that they speak about in Proverbs. So let me see if I can find some of the scriptures that the okay. So this is some of the scriptures that she said in the books of Proverbs. In Proverbs chapter 8, wisdom describes her role in the creation of the world. At one point in verse 22 to 25, all quotes from the RSV, she says, "The Lord created me at the beginning of his works. The first of his acts of old, ages ago, I was set up at the first, before the beginning of the earth. When there were no depths, I was brought forth. Where there were no springs, abounded with water." She tells us she was created before the beginning of the earth and brought forth. The word translated as created, also meaning acquire, for example. It is used when Boaz and Ruth and his wife, so forth. It's giving you another example of when this word was used. So if you listen to people, they will say it's allegorical, but they'll never give you a breakdown of why this is allegorical. I don't believe it's allegorical. I believe that when they speak about the Lady of Wisdom, it's they didn't have texts before talking about other female deities such as Inanna, NEITH, ATHENA. They all had these titles. Like, even when you read the Bible, the Hebrews, the Jews, when they left Egypt, they wanted to go back and worship the goddess of heaven. Who do you think that is? That's NEITH. So if we know that the Proverbs was copied from Amenhotep, what else did they copy? I mean, once you said it's copied and you've admitted that, then you have to ask yourself, well, what else did they copy from these texts? Did they just copy bits here, piece there? How do we know what's historical? How do we know what's allegory? Those are the things that they don't want to deal with. So now let's talk about it then. So in Proverbs, Lady Wisdom spoke Yahweh and said, when he established the heavens, I was there. When he drew a circle on the face of the deep. The emphasis is on demarcation between light and darkness, tells us that this was about good and evil because Yahweh saw that the light was good and he separated it from darkness. Like, this is nonsense. This is nonsense. Do you know how much people say to me, oh, Proverbs is about wisdom? There is no wisdom in there because you can't explain the things in there about the creation of the universe, as if Plato and Aristotle didn't do this before. Like, who do you really think you're speaking to like that? As if they didn't have access to Greek stories and information. The Iliad, the Odyssey, the Theogony, they were reading all these texts And who was Athena? What was her title? She was called the Lady of Wisdom, Athena, who was the protector of Athens. So you have to ask yourself, well, were they reading these stories? And did they just copy them and put them down? Who is NEITH? NEITH was the name of the first Egyptian queen of the first Egyptian king, Nama. His wife was called NEITH. Some scholars identify her as Isis. I think Plutarch done that. She's interchangeable. And I think even in Plutarch, if I can remember, he was saying that Isis represents matter and NEITH represents antimatter. So they were talking about the creation of the universe. But the fact of the matter is, if you know Proverbs was copied, then you have to ask, who was the woman that they speak about at the beginning of creation, who actually was speaking as if she created the universe? This is what I'm talking about. Let me just show you this slide. So this is NEITH. It says Plato also commented on the link between NEITH and Athena in his dialogue on the Timaeus, where he writes, the citizens of Sais had a deity for their foundress. She is called in the Egyptian tongue NEITH, and is asserted by them to be the same whom the Hellenists call Athena. Her identification as the most powerful created force in the universe is noted in Plutarch, who writes that the temple of NEITH at Sais held the inscription, I am all that has been, that is, and that will be. No mortal has yet been able to lift the veil that covers me. This is occult teachings, because you read it, but you don't understand what they're talking about. You start talking about virgin births as if these things they're not real. Just like when the Greeks used to, the Greeks there thought that the goddess Athena was original to them, but they actually copied Athena from the Egyptian deities. So when they said that, oh, Athena had blue eyes, the Greeks there thought they were Europeans because the Europeans had blue eyes, but this is the silly way of thinking. They meant blue because the cast of the sky is blue, because all of these deities were representing air, what you call spirit. No air, we don't breathe. It's simple. When you know someone is dying, or you look on to see if someone's dead, you check at their nostrils and so forth if they're breathing, because the breath is what you call the breath of life. It's got nothing to do with Yahweh. So the reason they call these people virgins is because that every human being that has come on this planet has always breathed oxygen, air, and it's never ending. That's why she's a virgin. There's no virgin birth. These things they're allegorical and have a deeper meaning. So let me see if I can show you something else just before I wrap this up, because I'm going to do a whole lecture on it. This is just to kind of test certain things. Okay, let me see if I can just wrap this up here. Okay, I think this was just a quote from Plato, basically just saying, I would like to bring up the idea of wisdom in reference to Plato's apology. Personally, I find that the way in which Socrates defends his wisdom is admirable. And although it leads to the verdict of him being killed, I think that his decision and the reaction by Socrates help define wisdom. Socrates, in essence, says that he does not fear death because he is wise. No one knows what death is. Perhaps it may be the best thing a person can to experience. However, a person that is unwise would approach death into thinking that it's the worst thing that can happen in life. And that's exactly how Jesus approached death. He was crying in the Garden of Gethsemane, hoping that his disciples would stay around to defend him. But yet Jesus himself is a deity. So he is different from Socrates, because Socrates took it because he said he's wise, he doesn't scare death. Jesus himself he did fear death, and so forth, was killed. But that's another story. So you ask them when you see them, who is the woman in Proverbs that they call Lady Wisdom, and ask them if ATHENA, NEITH, Astarte, a lot of them had that title. So Solomon wasn't just making it, but we don't even know if Solomon wrote Proverbs, because we don't even know. We don't have no evidence for Solomon ever been around. So you have to just go and find out where they got Proverbs from and who they were talking about, the Lady of Life. And I hope this time I'm heard on the thing. But in a few more days, I'll do a longer presentation on it. But for now, if anyone knows who the Lady of Wisdom is, then feel free to leave it in the comments. Subscribe to the channel and support. Thanks for listening. I'll be back soon with some more information. Thank you very much.